going to start with Rixanne Wehren from Geo Graphics and Coast Walk.
Hello, I'm Rixanne. I've probably met half of the people in the room and will enjoy meeting the other half. I'm going to speak tonight about the California Coastal Trail as supported and advocated by the Coast Walk organization, which has been mapping the coastal trail. Can you hear in the back? Which has been mapping the coastal trail since 2003 when they did a through hike. Through hike meaning hiking from one end to the other of a long trail. In this case it's 1,200 miles, passes through 15 counties from Oregon to Mexico. And as they have developed the pathway for this hike, it's of course not an official pathway, it's the pathway that you can walk. It's legal and feasible to walk all the way from Oregon to Mexico. And we're going to look at some of the trails that some of the aspects of trails that we encountered on those hikes, and a bit about the mapping. I wanted to introduce a lot of different trails because we're looking today at a whole range from hiking trails, bike trails. Well, we'll see in the presentation. I'd also like to acknowledge the efforts of the State Coastal Conservancy, which has been our sponsor for a lot of the mapping and a lot of the projects along the trail that are working towards making it a complete trail. We have a couple of representatives of the Coastal Conservancy here today, and we thank them very much for coming and supporting this effort. So when we're talking about the California Coastal Trail, it goes along many different aspects of the coast. In this one we see a highway in the background and a little trail coming down here. I guess we aren't going to be able to get this any darker in here, but you'll forward it, next frame. The Coast Walk in 2003 started at Oregon, and this is part of the Del Norte coast. You can see that these are very rough trails. They're not developed in any way, and that's part of the appeal of the northern trails. These are the tools that we use to document the trail along the way. A GPS in the top, a camera, and of course this is an old slide, we've gone beyond this now, but basically a data gathering sheet. And in various parts of the trail we've had either volunteers or staff take many readings and photographs. Next. Coming up from the ocean, a lot of our trails are right on the edge, and yet other ones are completely away from the edge. We'd like them to eventually be all along the edge. The goal of Coast Walk, and in fact the California law that implements the trail, is within sight, smell, or sound of the ocean. So that's our goal. Next. We've had some very remote trails. This is the Lost Coast Trail up in Humboldt area. Next. Some sandy trails. Next. Boardwalks. This is just to give an overview of what all we're talking about. We're not just talking about the single track trail. Piers, if it's walkable, it's part of the trail. This is on the bluff edge. This is down by Moat Creek, I believe, and it has a sign here, you can't quite read, but it says, "Danger, bluffs crumble." That was pretty good. Next. Water trails are also included in this, either to ferry from one point to another across the river, or in Humboldt Bay they're developing water trails that go from spot to spot around the bay, and there'll be a little dock or a little picnic area, and that could be a popular thing too, in some of our estuaries that go inland. We saw some very steep trails. We're up here on there. You can see just barely the person, and here I've got a little, right here, steep stairs, and there's another person here. And this goes down and down and down. This is at Rocky Point on the Big Sur coast. Next. Staircases are included in trails. Next. Horse trails. This has been my most difficult one to find because there's no maps, as far as I can tell, in most of the places along the coast, of which trails are open to horses. When we designated different trails or identified different trails, we tried to find who the trail was designed to be available to. And horse trails and now mountain bike trails are becoming very popular. These are still difficult to find. Next. This is for the bike trails, and I apologize not having a better bike picture, but we'll get to it. There are a number of these styles which go to the top of a fence. The fence line would be here, and then there's a ladder down the other side. And this is a potential for areas where we want to keep the fence up. We don't want the cows jumping over, but we want to be able to get the trail over rustic. Next. We even found campgrounds that were specifically designed for hikers and bikers. And this is a very popular thing and will become more popular. And I think Mendocino Coast is right for this kind of thing. This is Manchester. And this is a picture, sort of hard to tell what's going on here, but it's an area that's fenced off for snowy plovers. And there is a little plover right about here, and there's one right about there, and that's about all you see on the snowy plovers, but it's very important to stay out of these areas. These are, this is an indication of limitations that you have to think about when you're talking about where are we going to put the trail, or how would we want it to go. The snowy plovers are protected on the beaches, and so we haven't been able to designate trails on the beaches with snowy plovers unless there's an alternative. And we are identifying alternative routes for the seasonal closures. Next slide. Also, these are elephant seals down by Piedras Blancas, but seals, harbor seals are also protected, so they're areas for resting and mating and raising their pups all have to be considered. The other consideration is sensitive habitat, sensitive plant habitat. I don't have a good slide for that, but that's also very important. And there's, of course, a big debate about, because the California Coastal Trail goes north-south, it necessarily crosses many creeks, and creeks are protected areas. So there's always a balance between how do you put a trail or a bridge or a boardwalk across an area that's protected, still get your people to the other side, and we're looking at all those characteristics. Next. Then when we get back to the office, putting those characteristics into a database is done with a program called ArcGIS. It's a geographic information system that allows you to put your trails on top of other features. So this is what I do after I get back, make these maps, and every section in Mendocino County has one that's at approximately this detail. This is a pretty simple one, but you get the idea. And then these maps were put, I should go forward one, and we also take down all the characteristics and interface with the website to get these characteristics into the system. Next one. And then we have a website called CaliforniaCoastalTrail.info, I-N-F-O. If you want to take a look at that, you can see all the trails for Mendocino County by looking at these various segments, and you click through and you find the maps like the first one I showed, a little closer up, and some details about what's available there. Next one. Each point that we took information for then is displayed with its photos, its features at that point. And this is an ongoing process. We've been at it about 5 years already, and we estimate we probably got 5 to go. And they keep changing all the time. Every county changes its trails, allows more, closes ones off, seasonal closures, all sorts of things. So in the big picture, we want to be able to get this kind of information for the Mendocino County trails too. Next. I also want to talk about the problem of trail closure. We have had in Mendocino County several of the trails lost. These are trails down to the ocean from a first public road. And the Coastal Act requires that there be public access to the ocean from the first public road. But in reality, that doesn't always happen. And sometimes we've lost certain trails, either because nobody protested at the time, or because the easements were badly written, or just because it hasn't come up yet and the landowner closes it and nobody complains. So I encourage you to all be very conscientious of any trails near you. Next. We're also losing some to erosion. This is up beyond Westport at Westport and Union, and you can see that it's come quite a ways. There used to be a drainage pipe, which was probably underground at the time, and there used to be a road, but it's cut in that much. And, you know, I don't know the dates on this, but this is an ongoing problem. Next. In the southern part of the state, we're having the problem of houses being built right on the shoreline, and then as the waves start to undercut it, they want to put these rocks all along the shoreline. And Southern California is having a major problem with erosion now, and how to convince landowners to either build further back, move their houses back, or do something other than barricade the coastal trail in public areas. Just, yeah, and then that's the end of the slides, but I also want to mention that within Mendocino County, I'm the director of the Coastal Land Trust, and my colleague Louisa Morris, she and I are working on various aspects of the coastal trail and other trails along the coast. We're going to be picking up various easements that are already written that are being stockpiled until it's feasible to open them. So there are some little spots along the coastline that do have some reserved easements. The Mendocino Land Trust also does the same work, and the Redwood Coast Land Conservancy in the south. I'm also working on new maps. The 6 maps back there are my work from Coast Walk, and we're hoping to expand on those, and I'm working on getting the rest of the county available through mapping also. We have one other project coming up. There are 2 other projects actually. Westport is anxious to get some planning done on the coastal trail from the Usal Junction down to 10 Mile, and Louisa will talk a little bit more on that on the planned trails area. And the Redwood Forest Foundation is also starting to become interested in the trails on their properties, and so there's quite a bit of energy among the land trust groups and the public agencies in Mendocino County. I think the time is really right for your encouragement of all these, and because if the public is interested, it really helps the land managers have a basis for making the applications to funding sources and making the connections between the county agencies so that we can move forward on these trails. So I appreciate you all being here very much, and encourage you to keep involved with trails planning. Thank you.